Hello Game Makers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in today's episode we get into the mission editor where we can place down spawn tiles, units, change their facing, and set up some parameters for the missions themselves. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to import a new CSV file called classes and characters. I'm just going to open it just to explain it for now. So here are our main classes we have. We're going to have 4 basic classes to start off with, and then the rest of these are kind of classes that you have to get certain points to be able to change class to. And then here we have some special characters. These are the people that are gonna carry on from quest to quest. So the main protagonist, his friends, and a boss, a named boss that speaks. Every time you want to add a new special character, just add it onto the bottom of here, and make sure you save. That's all you have to do, really. So we've got quite a lot of stats, kind of necessary for this kind of game. That's why we're going to use a CSV sheet rather than putting it all into the creative end of GameMaker. Let me just explain some of them. So in player's team, so basically the player's army, you can see these special characters are in the player's team. This guy isn't. It doesn't matter about whether these guys are in the player's team or not, because when we add characters to the player's army, we're going to be setting this value and saving it in the player's army grid or CSV file. Controlled by the AI, so most of these are going to be true. We're going to have this value changed per mission. So some missions you can have these characters controlled by the AI, other missions you can have them controlled by the player. If a unit is on the enemy team, it's always going to be controlled by the player. Must survive this battle, so 0 false, 1 is true. Again, you can set this per battle. If this value is true and one of these characters die, then the game is going to be over. Class, so which class is this particular character? It's only really important for these 4, because this is just the information. This stuff here is the base information for each class, and then this is the information we want to start with for the special characters. The way we're going to do it for the player characters is we're going to track how they level up and store their stats as we go. But for the enemies, when the enemies appear, we're going to have their stats based on level. So the highest level in the player's army is going to determine the stats for these guys, as well as any enemy fighters, enemy characters. That's the way we're going to do it. Kill to win, so this is true and you kill that character, then you win the battle, even if there's still enemy units to fight. This stuff should be pretty self-explanatory. HP max, HP current, MP max, MP current level, XP. Like a lot of these type of games, when you get to 100 XP, your level's going to increase and the XP gets reset to 0. Strength's going to determine melee damage, intelligence is going to determine magical damage, defense is going to be physical defense, wisdom, magical defense, plus maybe a few other things. Accuracy, the chance of being able to hit someone. Agility is your ability to dodge being hit. It's basically going to negatively affect the opponent's accuracy when they're trying to hit you. Block melee, your chance to block a melee hit. Block range, the same but for ranged. Fire resist, ice resist. We're going to have two different elements of spells, fire and ice. Your resistance to these is going to reduce damage you take, basically. And these last entries here, left hand, right hand, chest, accessory and item, it's just what your characters are going to have equipped. We will have some kind of random generation for the enemy team, and for the player team it's going to be down to the player for the most part what items these characters have. Sorry, there's another item there. So we have two item slots, left hand and right hand, chest and accessory. Okay, so we're going to have a new object called obj main, and we have mainly enumerators in here. I'm just going to go through it now. So enum e-facing, so we have 4 directions: west, north, east, south. We're going to have some sprites for the units, and the image index of each sprite has to match this. So a west facing, then north, east and south. This enumerator is basically a reflection of this here. And if you noticed, the very first entry is just basically explaining what each stat is. But we're not ever going to be really using this entry. But we still need to account for it. So that's why we're going to leave the first entry as empty here. And then the rest of, so fighter is 1. This one here. Archer is 2. Etc. Etc. And then e-stats, all this here is just this one here that goes across. We don't need to leave the first entry empty because here's all the names, here's all the in-players teams, etc. Do I need to explain anything else? Don't think I do. Having this down as an enumerator just makes it a lot easier to reference things in the game and makes it more readable. So we're also going to load our new CSV into a global grid called character stats. We're going to use that a lot. And then we've got a region here called setup sprite grid. We haven't imported the sprites yet. We'll do that in a minute. There'll be a link to a download where you can get the CSV file and the sprites. So we have a enumerator. I'm not going to have any more entries in this. This is, at least for the tutorial anyway, this is to allow for things like idle states, moving, that kind of thing. You might want to have extra animations for your characters. This is what's going to allow for that. But for this tutorial, we're just going to be using stationery. And this global.acr SPR is going to be a grid that stores the sprites for all of these characters, basically. Okay, so I have imported the sprites, and as you can see, the first sprite is always facing west, then north, then east, then south. It's the same for every sprite. These are all just colour variations of this sprite here. So all I've done is change some of the colours for everyone. And that should be pretty much it for the main object, the create event. We're not going to use all this right away, but it's just kind of setting things up for us for the future, really. Okay, so now we are going to edit the create events of OBJ editor. The way we are going to do this is we're going to have different states for whether we are editing the map itself or editing the mission part of the map. So the map editing is just going to be what happens in the last 4 episodes, and the mission editor is going to cover placing spawn tiles and placing units on those spawn tiles. The enemy spawn tiles should always have a unit on them, otherwise they're just going to be wasted. The player spawn tiles don't have to have units, because that's going to allow the player to place a unit in that spawn tile. But say for example we have 8 spawn tiles for the player, and 2 of them are already occupied, then the player will only be able to spawn 6 extra units of their choice, and we're going to display to the player which units are already going to be in the battle, just so they know what's happening, just like the regular tactics games do. So in the tile enumerator we have several new entries. Spawn tile is going to be -1 for most tiles. If we want a player unit to spawn there, then it's going to get set to 0. If we want an enemy to spawn there, it's going to get set to 1. 0 and 1 are going to be based on the sprite. Let's just add that now. So this is going to be our spawn tiles. 0 is the player and 1 is the enemy. Conversation index. So thought about how to do this quite a lot. Took me a long time to kind of settle on a way that would work for what I had in mind. Basically, every time you place a unit, a counter is going to go up for that map. Every map is going to have its own counter set to 0, and we're going to have a CSV file that holds an entry for every line of text we want to display. That's wrong. It's going to be not every line of text, but every like block of text. So unit number, or sorry, conversation index number 1 might speak first, and then conversation index number 20 might speak, and then 1 might speak again. So all we're going to do is at the start of a text string, we're going to have a number which is going to denote which unit is speaking. That's going to be our conversation index, and even if we delete a unit and add a new one, we're not going to reduce the conversation index. It's always going to increase. That's just to make sure we always have well, first of all, it stops you having to change the text you've already put down, because if you have, say, 5 characters and they're all speaking, and then you delete character number 3, well, if we're changing the conversation index based on that, then everyone that speaks after number 3 is going to need their conversation index changing. So it's just a lot simpler to just make this number increase every time you place a unit. It won't have any negative effect really, so that's why we're doing it this way. It'll make more sense when we start to edit the map with units. So I just wanted to kind of give a brief explanation for now. Unit is going to be a number from, say, 1 to 13. It's going to be usually the class, but often as well what special character it is. So for example, if we open our CSV, then if we're placing a fighter, it's going to be number 1. If we're placing bots, it's going to be like number 13, I think. That's what it's going to hold. Unit facing is going to be west, north, east or south. And we've covered these other 3 entries in detail earlier. So we also have to allow for our new entries in the enumerator. We're going to set them all to -1 for setting up the grid. So just this line really. Then in extra variables we have a new region. We have mouse sprite, mouse index and unique conversation index. This variable here is just going to track this entry. So this is the value that's going to be ever increasing for every map. And then mouse sprite. So we're going to have like a little GUI where we can click on a spawn tile or a unit and then place it on the map, and the mouse is going to show us what we're basically going to be placing. And the mouse index is going to help us really to say whether it's a player or enemy spawn tile. That's all it's for. Just a visual clue for us as the game developer, really. Then in editing states, so like I said, we've got two states, map and mission, and editing state is going to determine what state we're in, basically. And that is pretty much it for the create event. Alright, so now we are going to get the vast majority of the step updated. These three regions are new. We're going to do them after we do the draw event, just so you can see things progress a little bit. These 4 states don't have any changes. We want these to work regardless of state. We want to be able to move the camera. We want to be able to change the height. So this doesn't affect the tiles, remember. This is just for visual display, because you might want to place a unit behind a hill and you're not going to be able to see it sometimes, so we want to be able to reduce that still. Toggle display all heights, again, we want that to work for both states. And save, load, create new, delete current. We also want that to work because mainly because we want to be able to save and load, switch between maps to do the missions on them. So it's useful for all the states. So let us go into grid X, grid Y first of all. We've got 2 new variables, actual grid X and actual grid Y. What this is going to do basically is track where the mouse is on the map. The only reason we've got this in the first place is to make sure that when the mouse isn't over the map and we click, we don't want to be placing units, because we're going to have GUI elements on the bottom to click on, and we don't want to be placing units on the map at the same time as clicking on the GUI elements. So because grid X and grid Y is being clamped to 0 and whatever the height and width of the grid is, if we did click, it would place it on one of these tiles. We don't want it. So here we only want this to work in map editing mode. So we're just going to add this line here and enclose all of this in a bracket there. That's all we need to do. Let's do this one first. It's not a big change. So first of all, we're going to wrap all of this inside this line, because we only want to be able to change the width and height in map editing mode. And in this region, we need to make sure we are allowing for our new enumerators for the tile indexes. And the same thing for this region here, just adding this line here. So those are the main changes. That's the only changes for that region. Okay, so the last one we're going to do before we go into the draw event is going to be paint the map / place unit / spawn tile. This was what the code was before. This is that same code now, but with a few differences. So we're checking the state to make sure it's a map, and then we are moving this line here to here so that both states can take advantage of this. And then the rest of this, all of this code here, is for the mission states. First thing we want to do is, this code here is, we want this to work whenever the mouse button is held down. We only want this code to work when the left mouse button is first clicked. That's why we have this check here, to make sure it's the mission state, and also we're pressing the button rather than just holding it down. So now we're going to make use of our actual grid X and actual grid Y. If actual grid X equals grid X and actual grid Y equals grid Y, that means the mouse is actually over the map somewhere. It's on one of the tiles, and that's when we want the rest of this code to work, this stuff here. The reason we're doing that check is we're going to have some GUI items, and say for example we have the mouse sprite as a unit or a spawn tile, and we're trying to click on a different GUI item. We don't want to also place something on the map, so that's why we're doing this check. So this bit here, if the mouse sprite equals SPR ISO spawn tiles, which is this one, then grab the list, grab the entry for spawn tile, set the spawn tile entry as mouse index. It's either going to be 0 or 1. And then update the conversation index entry. We're going to check first of all to see if we haven't already set this, and to make sure it's actually undefined. Either undefined or we haven't set it yet. If both of these conditions are true, then we want to set the conversation index to this value, which, like I said, it's going to always increase whenever we place a unit down. Then in this here, so if it's not SPR ISO spawn tiles, or if it is SPR ISO actor, which is this one here, default sprite, if it's that sprite, and spawn tile is not equal to undefined, and spawn tile is greater than -1, basically if it's 0 or 1, then we're going to run this code. So we only allow unit placement if there's a spawn tile already there. This is what this check's going to ensure. So as long as there is a spawn tile and the mouse sprite is SPR ISO actor, set the unit entry as fighter as a default. Set the unit facing to whatever mouse index is. Mouse index is going to be 0, 1, 2 or 3 for this. So 0, 1, 2 or 3. And then update whether it's AI controlled or not. So if it's the player spawn, we want it to set AI controlled to false by default. Otherwise, if it's enemy spawn, then set it to true. We also want to set must survive and kill this unit to false by default. These three values we are going to be able to change as well after placing a unit. That's what one of these other regions is going to do, but for now that's all we're going to do in the step event for right now. We do need to update 2 of the scripts as well to take into account the fact we have more entries per tile, per list. So the first one is load map, SCR load map, and we want to add, basically, after we resize the grid, just before we are copying the lists over, we want to set unique conversation index to 0. If you remember, each map needs its own value for this. And what we're going to do then is inside this double for loop, as we load each list from the save file, we're going to check to see if the conversation index entry has been updated. And basically, we're looking for the highest value. So whether that's 10, 5, 20, 24, whatever it is. And here we're going to say we're going to set con in to whatever the current list is for conversation index. If it's not undefined and it's greater than what unique conversation index equals already, then we're going to set this to con in. And that's how we're going to find the greatest value for the current map. and that's pretty much it for load map. Create new, we just need to add this line in really. There is actually one thing we need to change in the step event still. In the save load create new delete current map region, where we're going to delete the map, we actually want to check to see if there's one to load. So this was the original code, just this line here. So comment that out, and we're going to check to see if the size of the battle map list is greater than 0. If it is, then just load map as normal. Otherwise, we want to create a new map, and that will stop us getting a crash if we delete all of our maps. Okay, so in the draw GUI area, we're going to open this one first. So we just want to wrap this stuff here to where we are displaying the next tile that we're going to draw. We're going to wrap it to say only draw it if the state is map for this. And then we've got a brand new region. This is going to draw our GUI for placing the actors and the spawn tiles. Okay, so make sure this is wrapped within mission state. We're going to set the draw scale to 2. This is going to draw our spawn tile icons. This is just setting up coordinates for the draw. This is going to run twice because there are 2 indexes in SPR ISO spawn tiles. It's just better than doing 2 different draw events, because within this for loop we're going to be drawing two sprites, and this is going to check to see if the mouse is over one of the tile sprites. It's either going to be the blue player tile or the red enemy tile. This line of code checks to see if the mouse is over one of the 2 tiles. If it is, we're going to set the color to light grey. That's going to change the color of the sprite that's drawn to make it a bit easier to see whether we are actually over the tile or not. And if we click the left mouse while the mouse is over this tile, we're going to set mouse sprite to SPR ISO spawn tiles because it's a spawn tile. And then this one here, mouse index, is going to be either 0 or 1 depending on where it's up to in the for loop. Team is only ever going to equal 0 or 1. So otherwise, if the mouse is not over this particular sprite in team, then set col to see white and then draw it. So this happens twice a step because this is running twice. And then it's pretty much a very similar thing for draw character, except we only have 1 sprite. So setting up draw coordinates, getting the mouse coordinates, checking to see if the mouse is over the actual sprite we're drawing. If it is, set the color to grey. If we also press the mouse button, set the sprite to SPR ISO actor. Default facing is going to be south, and set the color to see white. And then draw the sprite. Basically, we're going to do this region a little later after we do the rest. After we do the step event regions, I think that should be enough. If we run the game now, we should be able to see a difference. So if we click on, you can see the color of the sprites changing when the mouse is over it, but nothing happens when we click on it because we're not drawing the mouse sprite or the mouse index. So we're going to go into the draw event now and make a few alterations. Before we do the draw event, don't forget to put the main object into the room. I'm just going to delete the editing object and drag in the main one, put it in there first, and then the editor. At some point we're probably going to have a different room and put the main object in there first, and then depending on whether we want to play the game or edit, we're going to go to a different room which is going to have the editor in it. So just make sure you've got both objects in the room, and the main object should come before the editor. Okay, so now in the draw event of OBJ editor, got a couple of changes that we want to sort out. So draw cell region, we have all these new entries that we want to use. So make sure you got those 4 down. Make sure none of these are local variables, because we need to read them in different regions. And if we make it a local variable like this, not capitals, like this, then it's gonna only be read in this region. So this region couldn't use it. So just make sure you have it like that as well. And then inside draw decoration, well, when draw height equals height, that's when we want to draw the unit and the spawn tile as well. So we have a new region here for that. Just going to open it. So first thing we want to do is we want to set the color, which is just going to highlight the spawn tile or the unit if the mouse is over it. Bearing in mind this is when they've already been placed on the map. So it's either going to equal yellow or white. As long as the spawn tile is not undefined and it's greater than -1, we want to draw it on the map as well. It's going to be red or blue. Same thing for the unit, as long as it's not undefined and it's greater than -1. It should be greater than 0, because 1 is our first unit. It's going to be the fighter. Let's make that clear as well. Characters.fighter. So as long as unit is not undefined and it's greater than or equal to fighter, then we want to draw the unit. So first of all, this is going to grab the sprite. Which sprite to draw is going to depend on the class or the character, because it could be a special character. They're going to have their own sprites. Then this is going to draw the sprite based on the sprite we grabbed from here and the unit facing. For editing purposes, we're going to want to see whether it's a certain class or a special character. We want to see their name, so that's what we're going to do here. This line is just going to draw the first 2 characters of the name. The reason for that is if you have lots of units all next to each other, the names get drawn over each other. So that's why I just used this to get the first 2 characters of the string to draw that instead. If you want to have the full name, then use this line instead. And this text, this draw text, is just going to draw the name of the current unit, whether it's a fighter or butts. And then this line here is also going to draw the unique conversation index, so you know what number to put on the line of text to say this unit is going to be speaking. That's what it's for. Okay, so let's minimize this now. Then we want to go into draw cursor. I don't really like displaying the mouse cursor on the map when I don't have the mouse over it. So this line here is going to take care of that. We're only going to draw the mouse cursor if actual grid X equals grid X. And the same for actual grid Y and grid Y. So we only want to do the map stuff if the state is map. I don't think I've made any changes here, but this is what this region looks like for the map state. Just going to close that now. And then this is new, So if it's not the map state, it's going to be editing state. We should really put that inside an if statement. Like so. So if it's the mission editing state, if the mouse sprite is not equal to -1, and then get the draw y coordinate, draw the mouse sprite, draw whatever the mouse index equals. And then here, and what this line is for is, what we're saying is, if the mouse isn't over the map, but the mouse sprite does have a sprite, then draw it, because it won't be drawn in this bit here otherwise. So that's what this is for, just so we can see we've got a mouse sprite to move. So if we run the game now, we should be able to do a little bit of stuff. So there's our blue spawn tile for players, red for enemy and the units. If we click on a unit, you can see it kind of snaps into place. That's because it's being drawn on a grid X, grid Y basis. If you try and click, we can't place it. Why is that? Because we said we can only place them on a spawn tile. So if we place a spawn tile down, we can place them now, wherever we want. And then if we grab the unit, we can place them. And it's showing the current unique conversation index at the top, 0, and the class fighter. Place one there. They're all going to be fighters, but you can see the number above their head increases as we go on. So you should have something like this. It should work equally well if you have a different height on here. Okay, so now let's go into the step event. Let's make use of our other regions. So we want to do a couple of things with the spawn points and units. First of all, we want the ability to delete them. So that's this region here. So if we press MB right and it's the mission state, then clear the mouse sprite, clear the mouse index. Also, if the mouse is over the map, check the list. If there's a unit, then delete it. Otherwise, make sure the spawn tile is set to -1. So the way this is going to work is if we place spawn tile and then a unit on top of it and then press the right mouse button, it will delete the unit but keep the spawn tile there. If we then press the right mouse button again, it will delete the spawn tile. So that's the way this code is going to work. Then rotate the unit, change the class. So we want to be able to change, first of all, the facing of the unit that we're placing down, and also when we place it, we want to change the class of it. So make sure we're in the mission state. Grab the list, grab the class of the list. This can also be a special character, remember. If we rotate the mouse wheel down, then make sure mouse sprite is set to, as long as the mouse sprite is set to SPR ISO actor, then we want to check to see if mouse index is already on the last image of SPR ISO actor. So basically, we're going to be, say, mouse index was here. If we +1 to it, it's going to be here. If we +1 to it again, it would normally go here, but we want it to go back to the first sprite. So this is how we're going to be changing the rotation of the unit with this code here. So that's that. If the mouse sprite is empty, and there is a character there. Again, this should be greater than or equal to e characters.fighter, just to make things clearer. If we're not at the end of the sprite, then add 1 to it. So what we're doing with this code here is, if you remember, in our main object we have all these different classes, characters. So if unit equals healer and we add 1 to it, it's going to equal monk. If we add 1 to it again, it will equal butts, and so on. If we get to Davos and we press, we move the mouse scroll button again, it's going to go back to fighter. That's what we want to happen. So that's what this code is going to do. And the same thing for mouse wheel up, but this time we're going to -1 from it. Same kind of code. Might as well do this as well. So we want the ability to toggle whether the unit is AI controlled, whether they must survive, whether we have to kill them to win. So making sure the state is mission, and we're holding down the shift key. Grab the list. As long as the unit is, as long as we have a unit, then we want this code to work. If we press 1, then we're going to toggle. We're either going to have AI controlled to true or set it to false. This code here, something equals not something itself. It's a really good way to switch something from true to false or back again. If must survive, these lines here, same kind of thing for here. But what's really important is we're flipping it from true to false or back again. Same thing for kill to win. Then in the draw GUI, we have this code here. So grab the list. If we do have a unit there and it's not undefined, then we just want to draw the stats for the particular unit, whether it's AI controlled, whether it must survive, whether you have to kill this unit to win. So let's run the game. All these features should be in place now. So just place a spawn tile, grab a unit. We can move the mouse button before we place it to change the rotation. And then if we highlight the unit, we use the mouse, we can change the class, as you can see, up and down. And if we press 1, Shift and 1, we can change it to AI controlled, Shift 2, Shift 3, like so. And same with the enemies, place as many spawn tiles as we want. Rotate the enemies, place them, change their class. And then change where they have to survive, which is going to mess us up. You probably don't want any of these characters to be set to must survive, because then if you kill it, you'll lose, strangely. So I'm sure I'll have some code in place to prevent that, but there's no reason for you to set any of the enemies to must survive. You want to set them to kill to win, like that. That's it. I think that's going to be all for today. I hope you are all doing well and keeping indoors, and I'll try and get the next episode up as soon as possible. But until then, thank you for watching, and bye for now.